This tutorial gives some general troubleshooting procedures and tips for GeoNet wireless networks, as well as the agent software program. Many of the issues that arise when installing and using GeoNet networks and agent software can be prevented or resolved with a better understanding of the product. For this reason, it is recommended that the GeoNet hardware and agent software manuals be read in their entirety, or at a minimum, that the GeoNet installation and agent software tutorials have been viewed before attempting to troubleshoot a network. Devices should be mounted vertically so that the antenna is pointing up. For optimum performance, GeoNet devices should be mounted as high off the ground as possible, with plenty of clear space around the antenna. A minimum mounting height of 6 feet is recommended. Obstructions between, around, or near GeoNet devices can cause reflections of the radio signal. Reflected radio signals can cause GeoNet devices to malfunction. For optimum performance, create as much space as possible between the straight line radio path and any obstructions, especially metallic objects. Common mounting mistakes include not enough clear space around the antenna, mounting devices horizontally, or mounting the device near metallic objects. The photos shown are examples of improper device mounting. All GeoNet devices are set to the same channel before leaving the factory. This allows a network to be easily established without needing to change the channels. However, if more than one network will be operating in the same area, then each network must be operating on a different channel. Up to 12 networks can operate in the same area by utilizing a different channel for each network. To set the channel on a device, make sure the network is in deployment mode. Set the switches located just below the battery holder to one of the 12 positions shown. Then press the reset button located inside the enclosure. GeoNet devices can only talk to one another when they are on the same channel. Therefore, all the devices in a network must be set to the same channel. The supervisor must be in deployment mode whenever changes are being made to the network, such as adding nodes, changing batteries, or resetting a device. While deployment mode is active, the LEDs on the supervisor will flash every 10 to 15 seconds. Supervisors automatically enter deployment mode after being powered up. By default, deployment mode will stay active for 60 minutes at a time. This can be changed using agent software. To reactivate deployment mode or reset the 60-minute timer, press the status button on the supervisor. It may take up to 6 minutes for this change to take effect, depending on the radio cycles, as well as the network size and configuration. Avoid powering down or removing the supervisor from a working network. If the supervisor must be powered down or removed from the network for some reason, always place the network in deployment mode prior to doing so. A common error that occurs is moving the supervisor away from the network to download data. When downloading data via a direct cable connection to a PC, it is recommended that the computer be brought to the supervisor, rather than removing the supervisor from the network. The network must be placed in deployment mode prior to replacing the batteries in the supervisor. This is also best practice when replacing the batteries in nodes. Lithium and alkaline D-cell batteries should both be replaced when the measured voltage drops below 2 VDC. 12-volt external batteries should be replaced when the measured voltage is less than 11 volts. All data is stored in non-volatile flash memory and will not be lost even if the batteries are removed for an extended period. In order for a node to resume normal operation after replacing the batteries, it needs to rejoin the network. If the network supervisor does not have cellular capabilities, then the network time must be set using the agent software program. Changing the deploy period requires exiting and re-entering deployment mode on the supervisor for the change to take effect. It may be necessary to temporarily turn off automatic download when changing the scan rate of a network. If a node will not join the network, make sure the network is in deployment mode. This is indicated by one or both of the LEDs on the supervisor flashing every 10 to 15 seconds. If the LEDs are not flashing in 10 to 15 second intervals, reactivate deployment mode by pressing the status button on the supervisor. Make sure that the 4 channel switches inside the node are set to the same position as the ones inside the supervisor. Remember, GeoNet devices can only communicate with other devices that are set to the same channel. Once the supervisor is in deployment mode and the channel settings have been verified, power the node while it is in close proximity to the supervisor. If a node still will not join the network after the previous suggestions have been tried, it may be out of sync with the supervisor. This can occur when the network is not put into deployment mode before the supervisor is powered off or removed from the network. The node will join the network if given enough time. However, the connection can be expedited by resetting the node. To reset a node, press the reset button inside the enclosure, or hold down the status button for 10 seconds until the red and green LEDs turn on, then release the button. If a node will not join the network at the installation site, place the network in deployment mode, then power down the node and move it so that it is in close proximity to the supervisor or a node that has successfully joined the network. Once the node is in position, power it up and wait for it to join the network. After the node successfully joins the network, move it back to its intended location. If the network connection is lost once again when the node is back in its original location, try to improve the radio signal by completing the steps explained in the next slide. If the red and green LEDs are flashing simultaneously on a node, the node can be used as is, but it may experience intermittent radio issues. The radio signal may be improved by mounting the node higher, making sure there is plenty of clear space around the antenna, removing as many obstructions as possible from the radio path, or activating additional nodes to provide alternate data paths. If the radio signal cannot be improved, the node may need to be moved to a better location, or a high-gain directional antenna may be required. Contact GeoKON for more information. There are a few additional LED light codes which may occur that are unrelated to normal operation. If the green LED is flashing in 1-second intervals, the channel switches inside the node are not set correctly. Set the channel of the device to a valid setting as previously described. If the green LED is flashing twice per second, or if the green LED flashes 5 times and is followed by one long red flash, the firmware of the unit needs to be updated. Refer to the GeoNet instruction manual for information on how to perform a firmware update. If the green and red LEDs are alternately flashing, the device is malfunctioning. Contact GeoKON for assistance. If agent can't connect to a cellular gateway supervisor, make sure the external power supply is connected and that it is functioning properly. Verify that the supervisor has connected to the cellular network by pressing the status button and observing a green or green and red LED flash. Make sure that the entire token has been copied and pasted into the network address correctly and that it is preceded by TOKEN:. If agent will not connect to the network supervisor when using an RS-232 or USB cable, make sure that the cable connection between the computer and the supervisor is secure and verify that the COM port entered as the network address is correct. Also check the batteries in the supervisor to make sure that they are installed correctly and are not depleted. If no data is being received from a node, make sure that it is powered on and that it has successfully joined the network. If a supervisor without cellular capability is being used, make sure the network time has been set in the network settings screen. Also check the batteries to make sure that they are installed correctly and are not depleted. A test reading can be taken by pressing the status button on the supervisor. This reading will be available for download within the next 6 minutes, depending on the radio cycles and what type of supervisor is being utilized. If necessary, data can be retrieved directly from a node by connecting a PC to the USB port and then creating a new network in agent with the COM port the node is connected to as the network address. If the readings from a vibrating wire sensor are missing, incorrect, or unstable, verify that the gauge leads inside the node have been wired correctly. Refer to the GeoNet instruction manual for wiring information. Multi-channel nodes and addressable nodes will stop trying to read an empty channel after 2 attempts. When this happens, the node will check the channels at the top of every hour. An immediate retry can be initiated by resetting the node. Once the sensor is found, the channel will become active. Make sure that there are no sources of electrical noise near the transducer cable, including generators, motors, arc welding equipment, high voltage lines, etc. The sensor can be checked for proper operation by connecting it to an independent measurement device, such as a GK404, GK405, or GK406. The sensor can also be checked by using an ohm meter to measure the resistance between the vibrating wire gauge leads. If the resistance is very high or infinite, the cable is probably broken or cut. If the resistance is very low, the cable conductors may be shorted. A thermistor reading of -273.15 degrees Celsius indicates that there is an open circuit to the thermistor leads. Check the connections of the leads inside the node for a misconnection or a short. Thermistors can be checked for proper operation using an ohm meter. The resistance between the leads should be between 10K ohms and 2.4K ohms when the ambient temperature is between 0 and +30 degrees Celsius. If the resistance is very high or infinite, the cable is probably broken or cut. If the resistance is very low, the cable conductors may be shorted. For more information on installing and using GeoNet devices, refer to the agent software and GeoNet hardware instruction manuals, or check out the other GeoNet tutorials available at geokon.com.